your host, Maurice Blair, and today we have a super guest, a good friend of mine, Mr. Mark Taylor. How you doing, Mark?
I'm doing well. It's good to be here today.
Great, great, and I'm excited about the program today. The information you have, you're going to be sharing with the viewing audience, and that way we have opportunity to kind of learn about you and about what you do in general. And I know we're going to be, it's along the lines of leadership. Is that right?
That's correct.
Yes, good. So when we say leadership, what does leadership mean to you?
Well, for me, I think that John Maxwell put it simply: leadership is influence. It's about getting people to do what you need for them to do. It's not by necessarily force. In fact, I believe the greatest leaders help people realize what needs to be done, and then they within themselves find the desire to do it. And so leadership takes a lot of forms, but at the end of the day, it's about influencing someone in a particular direction.
I feel you. And you spoke of John Maxwell. I have several of his books. I love to read his books. He is I'm talking about a dynamic individual, and he knows his stuff inside and out.
Yes.
And you're right, but leadership, when we say leadership, you know, that's a huge umbrella
Right.
in a large net. However, you know, this is my opinion, from what I see in society today, many people, you know, it's action, and many people talk it, but very few people are willing to strap on their boots and take action in reference to it.
Sure. Leadership is, in society today, there is really a vacuum regarding leadership. You have companies that spend thousands of dollars every year to try to teach their leaders how to lead.
Right.
And it takes a lot more than just learning certain leadership principles. There has to be really a desire to be a leader, and even understanding what it means to be a leader. It's more than a position or a title. It's really, it becomes who you are and what you do. When you don't really understand yourself, then it's really difficult to be a good leader. I think the foundation for any strong leader is an awareness of self.
I understand.
You have to understand that no one's perfect.
Right.
And so really leadership is about being able to even manage your own imperfections and manage others' imperfections to, at the end of the day, get a perfect outcome.
I like that. You're right on point. And even from a biblical perspective, our leaders there, they weren't perfect.
Absolutely.
They were broken, so to speak, but at the same time, when they came through,
right,
the end result is exactly what you said.
With that awareness of self, you then begin to see your ability to influence others, your ability to lead.
Right.
And when you understand that there are issues, there are imperfections,
right,
and you become aware of those, then you can better deal with those blind spots, as they're sometimes called. And we all have them.
right,
And the best leaders know how to address them and minimize those, and then focus on their strengths, and then lead from their strengths. That's why, for me, one of the real epidemics even in Western society is divorce. And you say, what's the link between divorce and leadership?
right,
Well, since I believe that leadership is founded in an awareness of self, often our perceptions and understandings of ourselves are formed in childhood based on our upbringing. And so oftentimes when there is some kind of disconnect, some kind of dysfunction early on, that affects how we see ourselves and how we perceive ourselves, which then affects how we even see the world. And so when you then talk about leadership to someone who has, let's just say, a lessened opinion of themselves, or a lower value, a lower esteem of themselves,
right,
and they don't even see their capability to lead.
right,
Because understanding leadership begins at the most fundamental levels family.
That's true.
Every father, every head of a household is a leader.
True.
And those principles that are taught and through any great leadership training, you can apply them to your family. It's again at the most
Right.
fundamental level. Well, with the epidemic of divorce and recombinations of families, there are often a lot of issues that come along with that again, I say, affect a person's perception of themselves and thusly affect their understanding of their leadership capabilities.
Right, I understand. Growing up, did you have an individual, or do you currently have an individual who you look up to, so to speak, as a leader, who you mock, who you mimic, who you try to, pattern yourself after?
Well, actually, at the moment, I don't have a single person,
I understand.
but really there are groups of people for different reasons.
I feel you.
There's actually a few men that I've worked with. I've worked at the same place for over 20 years. I started when I was 17 years old.
Where is that place?
Smith and Nephew.
Okay.
I work in research. That's what I do by day.
Okay.
And I've worked in research for over 20 years with most of the same people. There's some men there that have watched me grow up from a boy to a man, watched me get married and now have children. And a lot of what I learned about parenting, I learned through them.
I understand.
When it comes to ministry, I have a few
Right.
ministry mentors.
Right.
Apostle Sharon Nesbitt,
Right.
Pastor Kevin Willis.
Okay.
Even my father, Bishop Charles Cartwright, gave me a lot of insight and opportunity in ministry as it relates to being behind the scenes. He was my dad, but he was also my boss because
Right.
I was working under him.
Okay.
And they are strong influences for me. And there are others, and it's more a leadership by group, or I don't know how you want to call it, but there's not a single person, but there are really certain aspects of a variety of people
Right.
that I draw from, and I'm forming. Really, still, I'm learning more about myself
I understand.
and learning more about my own leadership style and really increasing my own confidence. And so all of these influences are now sort of coming together.
Okay, good deal. Good deal. I want to, and it's not necessarily word association, but I want to throw some words out at you and some people out at you, and you kind of associate with what you think about them. Martin Luther King. These are leaders I'm going to throw at you.
Sure. Martin Luther King, he had a great charisma about him, and that helped his cause. He came right at kind of just the right time, and he had just the right message. He was strong, but he wasn't overpowering.
I understand.
People felt like they could reach him. He seemed kind of like a regular guy.
Right.
Actually, I attended Morehouse my freshman year in college.
Okay.
And so he was, talked about quite a bit. And people who really knew him behind the scenes gave interesting reports about him. He was really a normal guy. He was a really regular guy, but he had an incredible amount of passion
I understand.
and drive and determination and motivation. He believed with everything in him that it was his call. There was nothing else except what he was called to do.
I understand. Mother Teresa.
Mother Teresa. Passionate, compassionate, strong, serene, she brought a mother's touch to movements.
Right. I'm going to throw one more at you. We may not see him as a leader. I do, to a degree, large degree, and it's President Barack Obama.
He's been afforded an awesome opportunity, and he has done a lot with the opportunity.
Right.
It's a difficult place. He inherited a very difficult situation.
True. True.
And there really isn't a good way to come out of it. So he was essentially swimming upstream from day one. I think he's managed it well, but what really impresses me most about him is his peacefulness, even under fire.
I hear you.
He never seems to be rattled. He exudes confidence.
Mm-hmm.
And so even in a difficult situation, you believe that he's together.
I got you, right, right. So also, I understand that you're putting together a book, or you have a book, right?
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about how that's going.
It's going well. Looking to have it out by December, should be in stores by December.
Okay.
It's entitled Making Smoothies.
Making smoothies.
Making Smoothies. It's a recipe for blended and step families.
Okay.
I was inspired to do the book really by my own life. I've been part of a step family. My wife was previously married and had children. I didn't bring any children to the relationship.
Right.
She had 6 children that she brought. Her ex-husband had a previous marriage with 5 children.
Okay.
So we had 11 children that were brothers and sisters that were all brought into the mix with me.
Mm-hmm.
And so over the years, it's been literally making a smoothie because you have to bring all these people together, all these different experiences together,
Right.
and make it work. With step families and blended families, which really have become the predominant
Right.
family structure now, because divorce
Absolutely.
again is
Right.
at an
Right.
incredible rate, and then even people are still getting remarried, but then the divorce rate for the remarried is even higher.
Right.
So you often have children who have been involved in multiple, long-term relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And that sort of thing is difficult. It brings its own set of complexity. People don't always realize that it takes several years for a step family to come together on any level. Counselors will tell you that if you have children involved, especially if they're a little older, maybe 6, 7, 8,
Right.
it might take 7 or 8 years for the family unit to really come together as one. The traditional family is becoming a dinosaur.
Right.
And so there's this whole new dynamic that has to be addressed. And this book is kind of a life story, but really I'm evaluating just certain principles that I believe are key, certain things that really need to be done that will help bring the family together and create a cohesive family unit.
If anyone is interested in obtaining this book from you, purchasing it from you, how would they get in touch with it? How would they contact you?
Well, the best way to contact me right now is simply send me a text and you can request book.
Okay.
Can I give the phone number out?
Yes.
The
Yes.
phone number is 901-679-3956.
Good deal. Good deal.
And just text book,
Right.
and we will begin to set up pre-orders here in the coming month or so.
Good. That's good. Well, I've watched you from a distance over the few years from Dominion, and you moving and grooving. You know, you're not playing. You're not shucking and jiving. You own it. And I admire what you do. You know, especially you're working with the youth. It takes you have to be cut of a certain cloth to do that, and you do a great job by far. But what are some of your goals? Let's say 5 years from now, 6 years from now, 7 years from now. What do you see yourself? What would you like to be doing?
Well, there are a few things. My wife and I, we do marital and premarital counseling.
Mm-hmm.
We use Prepare and Enrich.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that we really plan to be doing by that time is really having the counseling going full force.
Okay, good deal.
We do some now, but hopefully one of us will really be full-time in ministry by that time.
Right.
But really, that's our passion. We love people. We love to help people. We believe we're called really to impact the lives of people.
Right.
And so if that means working with youth, we can do that. If it means working with couples, we can do that. Mm-hmm. My wife has a passion for women, especially hurting women.
Good.
And she's looking at getting her women's ministry off the ground here in the coming years.
Good deal.
And it's really about meeting the needs of God's people. I mean, we're both called in ministry, and that's what we do. We love it. That's why I wake up in the morning.
I feel you. I feel you. Well, and that ties right in with what we're talking about, leadership. That's it. And leadership has no color, no gender. And like I said, that is great. You all are, on top of it, and like I said, I admire you, big time.
We're also looking at doing some leadership training as well. Because one of the things that I've also learned from years in ministry is that there's sometimes a lack of leadership training in our ministries.
I understand.
We have an expectation for leaders,
right?
But they're not being trained. So one of the things that we will do is bring just formal leadership training into ministries. I'm using, of course, biblical principles.
Right.
Because, one of the greatest leaders ever was Jesus Christ.
Right.
And so we want to bring the same kind of organization and structure that's done on the secular side, bring it to ministry.
That's right. That's true. And again, that number again, if anyone would like to get in contact with you.
Just again, the number is 901-679-3956. Just text book, or you can just text making smoothies. I'll know what you mean, and we'll set up a pre-order here in about at least 30 days.
Right.
But I'll contact you before then to let you know when to expect your copy.
Right, good deal, good deal. Are you from this area, from the area here, are you originally?
I am a native Memphian, lifelong Memphian, grew up in South Memphis, but I always went to school on the other side of town, went to Snowden Junior High then.
Right.
Graduated from East High School, then I went off to Morehouse for a bit and came back to Christian Brothers for a moment, graduated from the University of Memphis. So I've kind of been around the city all my life. My wife is a native Memphian as well. She's been here all her life. So right. we are part of the city. We have every intention of staying. We believe in Memphis. I'm a graduate of the Leadership Academy, fellows class of 2008.
Is that right? Okay.
And so I am absolutely pro-Memphis. I believe in the direction that we're going. We have great leadership for the city. Right. And I think we're going in the right direction. We're doing some really good things. Some of the racial issues are being dealt with. I just think Memphis is becoming a more progressive city. And so I'm excited about what's to come next.
Good deal. If a youth would come to you, a young man, someone that you 17, 18, 20, 21 years old, and what advice would you give them if they came to you and said, this leadership thing, I want to grow into becoming a leader in whatever area that he or she may choose. What advice would you give them?
The first thing I would do with them, actually, I wouldn't just talk, I would sit down with them. Right. And say, let's just talk about you. Tell me about you. What makes you get up in the morning? what do you really like to do? What would you do for free? What makes you cry? Where you're hurt? Because there is an awareness that's necessary to really become a strong leader in any area, an awareness of self. So I would start with helping them become aware of themselves. Something as simple as saying, who are you? Will start a great conversation. Because often even adults, if you say, who are you? They'll start saying what they do, where they work.
Right.
But that's not who they are.
Right.
And if you keep needling them a little more, they'll get to the point and they say, well, I don't know. Now the conversation begins.
Your role as a leader, what is one of the things that you had to really grapple with, really wrestle with, that was a challenge for you, that is a challenge, that you really have to deal with in your day-to-day?
The toughest thing for me was coming to grips with the issue that I had a low self-esteem.
Okay.
Very low self-esteem. And the way that I dealt with it was by overcompensating.
Okay.
I had to be, the smartest in the room. I had to do everything overboard.
I got you.
So that it always looked like I had it together. I looked confident. I walked confident. I could speak fairly well. So it didn't look like I had an issue with my self-esteem.
Right.
But amazingly, my wife, one day we were in a club. I'm a musician as well, among other things. I play drums.
Okay.
And I was playing out of B.B. King's, and my wife looked at me, and I just didn't look right. And that night, we just kind of had a discussion and said, you deal with low self-esteem. And I said to her, nobody knew. Because no one's ever said, you okay, you need a lift? No, I was always on it, together. He's got it together. But my wife was able to see something in me that no one else recognized or acknowledged or cared about.
Right.
And we sat and talked, and from that day, it really opened my eyes up to me. And it's been a journey, because now, again, we talk about blind spots or challenges.
Right.
I can tell if I'm going a little sideways or if I'm shrinking back to where I used to be.
I understand.
So I have to make a concerted effort to keep moving forward. And so when a person comes to me with an issue regarding self-esteem because of the past or whatever, I can easily empathize with them and let them know you don't have to stay in that place, and it's never too old to make a change. We can do this.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the kind of fact that you say you are a musician.
Yes.
How long have you been involved in that?
I started playing drums at about 5 or 6. I have a musical family. I play drums. My brother plays keyboard and organ. He's toured with Al Green all across the world, actually.
Okay.
My mother's an accomplished organist and pianist. She's been playing in churches for probably 50 years now. And even my stepfather, he plays as well. He's a musician. That we're a musical family.
Okay. I know, when I first saw you, you reminded me of somebody, and I said, man, I can't remember. This guy reminds me of somebody in the music business, and it just came to me all of a sudden, and that's George Duke. Have you heard of George? I take it.
Absolutely.
Right. Very talented individual. Yeah. Very talented individual. Well, like I say, you're doing a great job. Keep on. It's good it's all right to be good for a year, 3 years, 5 years, but that level of having to be able to stick and stay.
Sure.
That's what it's about. And I know the spirit that's endowed in you. I know that's it's no quit in you.
Absolutely. I mean, this is my passion. And it's a pursuit. I'm really in pursuit.
Right.
And as I attain things, I see new things to attain.
I understand.
So I'm never really satisfied, and it keeps me going. It's really my call. It's what I'll be doing until somebody rolls me out of here.
I feel you. I feel you. Well, again, I've watched you, like I say, from afar, and even been involved a time or two with some of the activities you mentioned. We had the sleep out over it,
boys
night out at church, And I tell you, I'm a sleepyhead. I couldn't hang with you guys. I did the best that I could, but what I'm saying is, again, I have to commend you because working with the youth today, it is a challenge.
Yes.
And you're not gonna get the best of the best, and you're not there for the best of the best.
Right.
You're there for those who are standing in need, who are troubled,
Absolutely.
who want help, who needs help, and even those who don't want to help. Don't want help. We're here to help them.
Yes.
And so because we never know, it's amazing. And I've watched kids, and you have too, that we've been interacting with at Dominion over the past years, and we watched them grow up in front of us, and they will walk by me and speak now, and I have to do a double take because the voice is changing. I have to look up at them.
To them.
Right. But and you see that they're doing good things and on the right road, and more importantly, going in the right direction.
Absolutely.
And I can understand exactly what you were meaning and what you were saying. Actually, coming up, I had individuals that I looked up to that took me under their wings, that worked with me, that helped guided me along the way. And I say this all the time, we owe a debt to those who came along and may be living now, may have died and passed on.
Sure.
But they sacrificed.
Yeah.
So that we're sitting where we're sitting, we're doing the things we're doing because of them. And in most cases, I think that's heavily overlooked.
Yes.
And I feel even from a biblical standpoint of view, we take that too much for granted.
Right.
The sacrifices that was made by Jesus, by the great patriarchs. And then even bringing it on up to this day and time, unseen people who are not in the history books.
Right.
And we owe it to them to stand up and be men and be leaders and raise up leaders.
Right.
I say it all the time. We used to have a lot of hard-working men and pretty women. Mm-hmm. Now we have a lot of want-to-be pretty men and hard-working women.
Right.
And something's wrong with that picture.
It's up to us to begin to really mentor the young men.
That's true.
And help them see something different, because in a lot of cases you have young men who are simply raised by their mother.
Right.
And maybe some of the things that only a man can teach a man.
Right. That's right.
Get lost. Now we know there are a lot of single mothers who push hard and they work hard and they do the best they can, but there's some things that a man has to teach another man.
You're 100. Believe it or not, our time is winding down. Already. I'm excited. I enjoy